How's it going, guys? Anthony from SAS4x4 here, and today we're doing a rig rundown on the Turbo TB45 GU Patrol. I've done a video in the past, that was about a year and a half ago, but I've changed quite a bit of things. So yeah, I thought I'd redo one, and plus I swear I get about 5 people asking me every single day what I've done with the turbo setup and asking me all sorts of questions. So today those are all going to be answered. We'll walk around the car and show you what I've done. So before I get into the turbo side of things, I'll just do a quick overview on the car. So it's a 2000 model GU Patrol Series 2. It's got 170,000 Ks on the clock, and it's a factory 4.5 litre petrol with a RE4 auto. Starting at the front of the car, I'm running a Millwell bull bar. I think this is probably one of the best looking bull bars for a GU Patrol. That's why I chose it. And it's also got a pair of classic King Spotties, mate. These are one of the first King Spotties that ever came out. I've had them on there for about 5 years and they've never done me wrong. So can't complain with that. And also got the Dominator winch as well. Probably, I think it's one of the first generations as well. First winch I've ever bought and only winch I've ever bought. Factory headlights. And then we're rocking the GME 4G antenna paired with a cradle in there for your phone. And this is the 2.8 dB, I think it is off memory. That's a UHF. So yeah, the big one's the 4G for your phone and the small one's the UHF. We've got a Patrol Doctor snorkel there, paired with a Demon Pro Parts airbox, but I'll show you that when we look under the engine bay. I think that's pretty much it for the front, and we've got a little front mount intercooler hiding under there, but I'll get into that later. So I'm also running a SAS4x4 light bar. If you guys don't know, we actually do sell our own light bars and LED whips. You can find our website, sas4x4.com. This one's got an RGB surround, so basically you can change the outside to any color through your phone and the app. And it also functions as a normal light bar as well. So if that's something you guys are interested in, as well as LED whips, search up our website, sas4x4.com, for more information, and you can get it from there. Moving on to the side of the car, nothing too fancy. I've kind of gone for more of the stock look. No fancy flares or tile mirrors, anything like that. The only thing that I've really done to the side is these rock sliders, which are, I think they're Southern Cross Fabworks sliders. They've taken a nice beating, as you can see, with all the rust there, and they've done me well. I've let the whole car on these. They've never bent, so very tough sliders, so definitely check them out. The only other thing I've done is put the sunshades or rain shields, whatever they're called. I'll get to why later. There's a bit of a reason behind that. I'll show you that. And yeah, so not too much happening on the side. Moving on to the rear. So on the back of the car, I put a Razzler rear bar. I love this rear bar. I think it's pretty sleek and it's a good design, and you can definitely take a beating. I'll show you that much. I've lent it against banks, rocks, all sorts of things. You can see it's all bent up and that, but it's done its job nicely. It carries a 35-inch tyre as well as 2 jerry cans. So I normally have 1 jerry can of water, 1 jerry can of fuel. Obviously just got a latch there to open up. Open this up. And that's it, they just swing away like that. And obviously it's got two lights in there as well, which are LED, just hooked up to a switch. So I normally put them on when I go in reverse, but I also put them on if I'm in the bush and I want to see behind me. It's pitch black at night, as you guys know. Yeah, this side of the car is pretty much exactly the same as the other one, except for the snorkel, which I've already talked about, and an awning. On the top of the car, I've just got Rhino Rack roof racks. Nothing fancy like they're flat racks or anything like that. These are just as normal stock standard bars. I did have a rooftop tent on here at one stage. That's why I have so many close together. But that's taken off now just to improve center of gravity. And I'll show you guys the exciting thing. Oops, just had to jump down. What I've replaced it with. Now, this is the best camping setup, I think, ever, because there's no setup involved. I've gone and built a little bed in here. So yeah, when I rock up to camp, don't have to worry about setting up. Can sit down, start a fire, relax while everyone else is setting up their tent. In the morning, if it's raining or whatever, I just get from the bed to the front seat and I'm ready to go. Now this is actually surprisingly comfortable. I think it's about 150 mil thick, something like that. It's very squishy. So yeah, never have any problem sleeping on that. Much better than any kind of swag mattress or anything you're gonna get in there, or a rooftop tent. So that's for sure. I've also got this little board here that I'm gonna make into sort of like a table thing by pushing this up and having like a latch or something, but maybe not. And then you've obviously got the factory drawer. These are just King's ones. If you press that, you can have this come out as a bench, I guess, to put stuff on. It's originally a fridge slide, but now it functions as that, as a bench. And yeah, just the drawers. At the moment, they're empty, but normally I keep either my cooking gear in one and recovery gear in the other. That's just a factory jack and that. These are obviously also empty for more storage if you need. This side I've got my amp, which I haven't mounted yet because I've been lazy for the speaker system, which I'll get into later. And then this side we've got a King's inverter, which is hooked up to my second battery, which is mounted under the front of the bed over there. And obviously a good thing about the TI model, it's got rear aircon and all that. So if you're boiling hot in summer and you really need to go in here, you can cool the whole car. Even if you're laying in the back, it'll be nice and cold with that aircon. So yeah, that's pretty much it for what's going up the back end of the car. And yeah, I'll get into more down the cockpit area, down the front. Before I show you the cab, I might as well show you what's under the bed setup at the front. This is a dual battery setup, so just battery, I think it's 120 amps, something like that, whatever the King's one is. Got a fire extinguisher, and then you've got all this storage here for whatever you want. And that box there is actually two 12-inch subs. So you can get a free massage if you lay on the bed and you crank up the tunes, you'll vibrate yourself to death. So it's also built-in massage bed, this one. So yeah, plenty of room. Some people might think you've wasted quite a bit of the car's space, but to be honest with you, you don't actually need to take that much, because what takes the space is the swag and camping gear and ropes and tent pegs or whatever it is. But because you're sleeping here, all you need to do is chuck a couple of pillows, some sheets, and you're good to go. And yeah, this is the other side, so you can see there. All right, let's get to the front of the car. Up the front, we've just swapped out the original seats for a pair of XR6 seats. It's a pretty common swap in patrols. A lot of GQ and GU owners do that. They're just a lot more comfier, and it uses the Hurricane Fabrication seat adapters for the runners. Other than that, we've got a Polaris head unit, probably one of the best head units I've ever had. Can't fault it. It's a massive screen. You can angle it whichever way you want. It's got HEMA maps on it as well. So you can do a whole bunch of things. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that kind of stuff. Got the Uniden UHF there, mounted at the bottom. That thing that's not mounted properly is my battery voltages for the main battery and auxiliary battery. I plan to mount that probably one day, but you know, there's always another thing you need to do. We've also got a boost gauge, hard to see, there it is. I'm going to put a transmission temperature gauge in here eventually, as well as all the switches for all the external lights. That's for the sub, and of course I've got it on max because, you know, gotta have bass. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, that's a Strike cradle. That's for the 4G antenna, which is out there. So you can boost the signal on your phone when you're in remote locations, as well as just the King's GPS speedometer. I think that's it. And then, yeah, factory sunroof up here. Love the factory sunroof. I think that's it. Just some rubber floor mats. Other than that, everything else is pretty stock up in here at the front. That brings us to the lift and tyres. I'm running a full Superior Engineering 5-inch lift kit. The only thing that's not Superior Engineering is the steering damper, which is a Tough Dog one. That's a return to steering damper. But other than that, everything's Superior. We've got Superior shocks and springs paired with their Hyperflex radius arms, as well as the extended sway bar links with pins there to easily unclip them for more flex. But on the rear, we've gone with their Super Flex sway bar. Doesn't get as much as flex with unpinning them, but it's pretty much 95% there, I'd say. I don't have to unpin it. That's the reason I went for that. As well as all the arms have been changed. So obviously lower control arms, upper control arms, the whole lot. Anything that can be changed pretty much has been changed. So that's that. If we go to the back of it here, probably get a better view. As you can see, Superior panhard as well. We've also gone for core retainers and dropout cones. The shocks are not long enough at the moment to actually use those, but it's there for in the future if I want to put longer shocks. But to be honest with you, I don't think it needs it. It already flexes pretty well, man. I don't think I need much more flex than that. And it is twin locked, so yeah, can't complain there. Moving on to wheels and tyres, I'm running a 35-inch tyre, mud terrain, Conforcer. They've done me pretty well, these tyres. They've gone through quite a bit of stuff. They're only cheap tyres, but believe me, I've put them through their paces, that's for sure. They're paired with a Lenzo Max 1 17-inch wheel alloy. Yeah, I think they suit the car really nicely. So yeah, can't complain there. I actually love these wheels. So yeah, moving on to the turbo setup. I guess this is the part that everyone's been waiting for, the turbo setup. So I guess we'll start with the turbo. Basically, this is a stock XR6 turbo, which is a Garrett G3582. It's also paired with an external wastegate, which is a Turbo Smart 45 Hypergate. Normally these turbos have an internal wastegate, but we have modified this one and welded the gate shut and put an externally mounted one just for better airflow. And then that goes to a Demon Pro Parts 3.5-inch airbox, again paired to a 4-inch Patrol Doctor snorkel. So that goes that way, and then if you follow that around, it'll come down to an intercooler. This is just an eBay spec intercooler, nothing fancy. I think it's a 300 by 600, just generic eBay one. And then it comes back up where the original wiper washer bottle is, and that's been relocated to this side, but at the moment I've taken it out. That's the bracket for it because I'm just modifying that, but that goes there. And yeah, and then you follow the pipe here, obviously into the engine. So that's kind of the turbo setup. Also, it goes on a Radius Fab high mount exhaust manifold. So that's that. And then we've just made up a bit of a heat shield, because the problem is there's not much clearance behind the turbo, and then I've had all these pipes start melting. That's why that's all been replaced, and I'm trying to put the heat shield there to kind of keep the heat away. I probably will get a turbo sock, I think it's called, or the heat shield, whatever it is that goes on the back there. That will help. As you can see, it's starting to burn up a little there, but other than that, it's been pretty good. So yeah, also the radiator is just an eBay spec radiator with the factory fan shroud and all that. Never had a problem with cooling. This car's never overheated once, and I've been giving it to it on the sand dunes, all sorts of things. Never had an issue with heating. Moving to the battery side of things, you like my spaghetti wiring everywhere, but that's what happens when you have a lot of accessories. That's the dual battery system, which is a kick-car system. Basically, if I press that red button there, I can jump start myself if the other one goes flat. Just a Century battery, and then yeah, all my lights and winches and all sorts of things. So yeah, we've also got the Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator there. Along with the regulator, we've also changed the fuel rail to our EFI fuel rail with 1150cc Bosch injectors. A bit hard to see, but it's under there. So that's also been changed just to give a bit more fuel, because on the previous setup it was getting a little bit of starved of fuel on the top end, but now we've rectified that issue. Also at the front of the car here, we've had to relocate the factory steering box and steering fluid coolers, and I've replaced it for that little one there that's mounted directly on the radiator, or what is it, the compressor, sorry, the condenser. But yeah, so that fits nice and snug in there. And then there, obviously you've got the intercooler here, which I've just made my own mounts and bolted it up just out of aluminium. I forgot to mention what boost it's running. It's running 9 PSI at the moment. It was running 10 PSI on the previous setup. I just dropped it down one because sometimes with varying temperatures, we are getting boost creep. It might go up to like 10 or 11. So putting it back down to 9 has kind of solved that issue. It'll only get up to 10 really max. So yeah, it's pretty good there. And obviously it's an unopened engine, so it's factory pistons and rods. And people on the forums on Facebook and that, you'll see say 8 PSI safe. But I've been running 9 to 10 PSI for what, 3-4 years now, however long I've had the turbo conversion, and I've never had an issue, and the motor's been going strong. So yeah, hopefully I don't bite my tongue on that one, but at the moment I've never had an issue. So yeah, hopefully it stays that way. Moving on to the engine management system, bit hard to see, but it's under there in that spaghetti of wires is a Haltech Elite 750. So we've completely retuned the entire car. And that's also now, since the last setup, and now we've added a wideband O2 sensor. That has helped a little bit on fuel economy. So yeah, we've just made a notch on the exhaust, like a little bung that screws on there, and then wired that in and obviously got it retuned. So that's as far as engine management system goes. And now the interesting part, the auto, which is not really an auto, it's actually a manualized auto. So basically what we have done, we have changed the valve body in the transmission. And since the last time, we've actually, the transmission ended up deciding to leave the chat and died. And we've just got it freshly rebuilt. So it's a bit nice and shiny, as you can see there. It's been freshly rebuilt, and we have strengthened it a bit now. So we've done some other modifications in the transmission to strengthen it, to help with the manualizing, because when you manualize shift gears, it's a lot more harsh on the gear set. So yeah, that should help. And basically we've removed the auto trans computer, which normally hides in that footwell over there. And this button here, if you click that, instead of putting it, that's like automatic hold and power mode, that actually puts the torque converter lock up. So that's your torque converter lock up. And the way this works is you put that in first, that's first gear, second is second gear, drive is third, and this overdrive button here goes into fourth. So basically whatever gear you're in, you're in. So if you're in drive, it will not change gears. It will stay in third the entire time, obviously until you shift down. So it's basically like a Trictronic. I think that's the best way to describe it. So the reason we went with this and not just swapping out for a manual is I believe auto for off-road is probably the best, because obviously you have the most amount of control when you're rock crawling and that, but I still like to be able to choose the gear that I want to choose without having to worry about clutch and burning the clutch out on steep rocks and that and stuff like that. So that's the reason we've gone this, and it handles the power really well and it shifts straight away, so there's not really a delay between shifting. We have a full series on the original setup with the manual valve body and all that on YouTube. It's one of our older videos, so if you want to go, you can have a look at that. It explains it in more detail, but in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it is. So yeah, I think that's everything to do with the turbo setup. I'm sure I've missed something, but you can ask me down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer you guys. So I think that's it, and I just remembered earlier I said I'm going to tell you why I installed these, and the reason I installed these was because of the bed setup. And at night, ventilation. I just open the windows up to there, and yeah, so you have ventilation and you can breathe and not suffocate in the car. But to be honest with you, it's actually very comfortable. What you'd think, you might think it gets hot in that, but to be honest with you, I've actually found quite comfortable, and I sleep like a baby when I'm in there, and you can fit two people comfortably as well. You're not squashed at all. So yeah, I highly recommend doing a bed setup. Honestly, it's a bit unpopular, but I'm all for it. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for the car. I think I've gone through everything as to the best of my knowledge. Like I said before, I'm sure I forgot something, but yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, we'll hopefully check in another time when it's been updated again. So thanks again for watching, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.